People have been trying to get rich by finding something of extraordinary value for thousands of years. 1 millennium ago, adventure seekers searched for treasures hidden by pirates. Just a couple of hundred years ago, many people were possessed by the gold rush, hoping to find a lucky nugget that would bring them a fortune. Today, however, we're going to look at accidental treasure findings. We'll look at people who found incredibly valuable things by sheer accident. Let's walk through the auction houses and see how valuable those findings were. Here are 10 lucky finds that made people rich. Let's start. Number 10, BERNICE GALLEGO, 139-year-old baseball card, $100,000. More than a decade ago, in 2008, an elderly woman named BERNICE GALLEGO was going through a box of old antiques when she found a black and white baseball card. She was a savvy collector, so her heart told her that she might be holding something of value in her hands. Despite being an older woman, she knew how to use the online platform eBay, and she put the baseball card up for auction with a starting bid of $10. To her fortune, the actual value of this card reached an astonishing $100,000, as it was one of the first baseball cards ever made. The card production date goes back 2 centuries, as it was made in 1869. It's not the first time that luck has blessed BERNICE GALLEGO. Before finding the card, she already lucked out by winning a jaw-dropping $250,000 with a single spin on a slot machine. As good as it sounds, don't play slot machines. It's not worth it. Number 9, family in Pennsylvania, the Wall of Coins, $200,000. Jeff Biddleman was an expert in collectibles, and one day he decided to help one family in Pennsylvania clean up a house which belonged to their relatives who passed away. Apparently, no one lived there for more than 2 decades. As Jeff was about to leave the house, he noticed a small hole in one of the walls. He asked the family about it, and the woman replied that she remembers legends from her childhood that that's the wall where previous owners of the house used to hide their money. It intrigued Jeff, and he started to dismantle the wall. To his surprise, it was full of old coins. Some were so old that they dated back to as far as the 18th century. More concretely, the oldest coin was minted back in 1793. The entire haul of coins was evaluated at $200,000. Naturally, as the house was the family's property and not Jeff's, the family got to keep the coins. I'm sure they compensated Jeff for his help. The name of the family is not disclosed to this date, and it might be for the best. The first rule of winning a lottery: never tell anyone about it. Number 8, anonymous, 12 pounds gold nugget, $300,000. In 2013, one avid prospector was on his usual search for goods when his metal detector started to beep at a bush he chanced upon. It intrigued the man, so he dug. He didn't need to dig much, as just 23 inches below the ground, a giant nugget of gold weighing 12 pounds was just sitting there. The man brought the gigantic nugget to gold evaluators, who valued it at $300,000. The pure weight alone of the nugget wouldn't reach such a value, but because it was of extraordinarily rare size, the value increased even more. You see, not all metal detector hobbyists are finding only old beer caps. Number 7, unknown, painting from a flea market, $1 million. If you're a fan of flea markets, point your ears up. This story is just for you. Back in 1991, a man whose identity is unknown went to a flea market to look for some antique goods. His interest was piqued by a painting, more specifically a frame it was resting in. The man bought the painting for $4 and went home to dismantle it. Throughout the process, he noticed that the frame is unusable and he threw it away, but to his surprise, it was hiding something. That something was one of the 24 original copies of the Declaration of Independence, printed back in 1776. It was sold at an auction for an astonishing $1 million. Hustlers of the flea markets, level up your game, as there are definitely better items to find than some old Nintendo game that you're going to flip for a profit of $2. Number 6, Eric Law's Roman Treasure, $2.3 million. At number 6, we have a finding made back in 1992. It's the biggest Roman treasure ever found in the United Kingdom to this date. It consisted of over 15,000 objects, including tableware, jewelry, but mostly consisted of silver and gold coins. How was it found, though? Well, the story is rather comical, as Eric Laws was helping a farmer from Suffolk find his lost hammer. Laws was recently gifted a metal detector, and the gift was perfect for the task. To his biggest surprise, the eventual beeping signal didn't lead to the lost hammer. Instead, it led to a treasure worth tens of millions of dollars. He gave it away to the British Museum and was awarded a whopping sum of $2.3 million. This story teaches us one thing: help local farmers find their hammers. Or rather, just be a good man and help the people in need. Number 5, Miner Bobby, the Royal One Opal, $3 million. A man who simply wants to be referred to as Bobby had a job as a miner. One day he was in desperate need of money and decided to sell his mining equipment. He did so, but there was one last bucket of rocks left that he had mined, and he had to look through it. To his surprise, one rock hid an insanely gorgeous opal under a thick layer of dust. Bobby just couldn't believe his eyes, as the rock was shining in bright green and rich blue colors. He decided to keep the rock. As he himself said, "I considered myself the guardian of one of God's greatest creations and was in no hurry to part with it." Bobby literally kept the breathtaking gem in his house for over a decade, until he brought it to the Couture Show in Las Vegas, where it was valued at $3 million. Bobby, don't worry. You've guarded God's creation for 14 years. Now it's the time for you to be rewarded for it. Number 4, Frenchman, hidden gold, $4 million. For number 4, let's go to France. Besides wine and baguettes, this country apparently is also home to treasures of gold. One man in 2016 found a jaw-dropping amount of gold. The man inherited a house from his relative, and to his biggest surprise, the inheritance was never about the house itself. It was about the gold hidden inside. In total, there was 220 pounds of gold hidden all over the house. It included 2 bars which weighed 26.5 pounds each, almost 40 ingots of 2.2 pounds, and over 5,000 gold pieces. The entire treasure of gold was valued at $4 million. Unfortunately, the anonymous Frenchman had to pay a 45% inheritance tax, but paying the tax on a finding of $4 million is better than not finding anything at all. Number 3, George and Betty Davis, figurine ordered by a czar, $5.2 million. In 2013, a couple found an interesting figurine in their attic. They've never seen anything like it before, so they felt it must be worth something. And oh boy, it was. Apparently, the figurine was made an entire century ago, back in 1912. It was ordered by Tsar Nicholas II of the Russian Empire as a gift to his wife. The figurine was of her bodyguard, Nikolai Nikolaevich Pustinikov, and was made by the finest artists of the House of Fabergé. Does it sound familiar? It might be because the House of Fabergé is a jewelry firm which produced the world-renowned Fabergé eggs, which today are worth millions of dollars. The figurine that the couple found was adorned with gold trims and sapphire gems in place of the figurine's eyes, and sold at auction for a mind-boggling $5.2 million. Who knew that the Tsar himself was a fan of figurines? If Nicholas II lived today, he might have been one of those guys who hoarded hundreds of anime figurines in their wardrobe. Number 2, Terry Herbert and Fred Johnson, Anglo-Saxon treasure, $5.3 million. The number 2 place on today's list is taken by yet another treasure of past civilizations. This time it was a treasure of Anglo-Saxons, and was found by Terry Herbert, who begged his friend to allow him to search his property with a metal detector. Eventually, Terry's friend, named Fred Johnson, agreed, and he allowed Terry to look through his land with his metal detector. To the surprise of both men, Terry found one thing after another. The findings just didn't stop, and Terry dug up cross after cross, weapon after weapon, coin after coin. Just in the span of 5 days, Terry managed to find almost 250 gold objects. He contacted archaeologists, and in the next several years, the land was professionally excavated in order to find the entire treasure. In total, an astonishing amount of 3,490 metal artifacts were found. It weighed more than 14 pounds, out of which 11 pounds were gold and 3 were silver. Birmingham Museum collaborated with the Potteries Museum and bought the treasure from the two friends. According to the law, 50% of the treasure belongs to the property owner where it was found, and another 50% belongs to the person who found it. As a result, Terry and Fred split the amount of $5.3 million. Unfortunately, this kiss of fortune separated the friends as they got into many fights because of the money. Would you choose to get $2.5 million or keep a friend? Number 1. Unidentified fisherman. The biggest pearl in the world, $100 million. The number 1 spot in today's list is taken by a fisherman that isn't identified. During one of his fishing sessions, he found a pearl. Not just a pearl, but the pearl. The biggest pearl in the history of pearls. It's 2.2 feet long, a foot wide, and weighs 75 pounds. You know what the funny part is? The fisherman literally kept it under his bed for over a decade and just kept fishing. However, one day, he brought it to a local tourism office where people told him that he was sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars. The pearl was evaluated at $100 million and was officially titled as the biggest pearl in the world. That's how a fisherman from the Philippines not only became rich, but also a world record holder. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, as there are many fascinating videos coming your way. Let us know in the comments below what's the biggest amount of money that you've ever found. See you next time!